Okay, so let's try to tie all of this together. So far we have installed debug mode frame server and connected it to Sony Vegas. We've just installed virtual dub and AVI synth, as well as the MV Tools plugin for AVI synth. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we need to create an AVI synth script. Now, I'll be frank on this, as I merely copied one of the AVI synth scripts that was on the documentation page site, and modified that according to my purposes. But I put it into a folder here, and this may be a little different than the script folder for AVI synth than what I'd put in the previous tutorial. But in any case, it's in this @AVI synth folder here. It doesn't really make any difference where it is, so long as that's the one that you reference when you go to virtual dub. So I'm going to open this, and then I'm going to open the script that we're going to talk about, which is SloMo progressive here. Now, let's talk just a little bit about this script. First of all, if you need to download this script, I've put it in my public Dropbox, and you can copy this particular URL to your browser and download that script and use it as a starting point, make whatever modifications are necessary. The first line in the script is to load the MV Tools 2 plugin, and that is merely the place where you put the MV Tools 2.dll that we talked about in the previous video. It's very important that, of course, that is the exact path to that DLL. The next line is AVI source, and that is the exact path to the FrameServe AVI that we're going to FrameServe in Vegas. The next lines are indeed the lines that I copied from the MV Tools 2 site. The only one that I really have been modifying, and is critical to this procedure, is where you see down here on this num equals 8 times frame rate numerator last. That 8 means that we are going to render this out at an 8 times SloMo. In other words, the resultant file will be at 1/8 speed from the original one. Also, I put in this assume FPS 59.94 because we're dealing with progressive footage here, and I'm over in NTSC land, so my footage is 59.94. Obviously, you want to change that for PAL. The other thing I might mention is that this footage, or this script, is just for progressive footage. There's some other ways that you can do this for interlaced footage, and I think John Meyer has posted some of those on the Sony Creative Forums website. If you need to do those, email me. We can talk about those at a later time. So in any case, we have this folder, and it is in that AVI synth script folder. So now, let's go back to Vegas. And we have a Vegas project open. Now, I apologize here. This is Vegas 11, and I know we were earlier talking about Vegas 10.0 C. But since we've gotten through that earlier install portion, other than just a little bit different looking screen on 11, the procedure is exactly the same. So we've got this project on our timeline. It's a NTSC 60p footage, and what we want to do is to frame serve that from Sony Vegas. So what we're going to want to do is a render as. Okay. Now, two critical things here in this render as. The very first thing is that for our encoder, obviously, we want to choose this debug mode, frame server, and the project default template. Okay? Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we render to the folder that we have set up. Well, actually, we don't have to set up a folder. We can do it to the desktop or the root of C or just someplace that is the same place that we set up in that AVI script, the AVI synth script, to run our AVI script from. And in this case, I have set up this folder debug mode and at debug mode. And the other thing is if you remember in the AVI synth script, we called the name of this file frameserve. So that's critical. Just to reinforce that, let me go back to this. Where we render needs to be exactly the same as this path right here in our script folder. In other words, the entire fully qualified name has to be the same name as what we see in this folder and in this name. Okay, that being said, we will click render. That starts up the frame service render. As I mentioned before, one thing you'll get errors on later on is that if you don't have YU-Y2 selected for our color space, you'll get errors on this. So make sure that's done. Click next, and okay, we are now indeed frame serving. But of course, we're not frame serving to anything yet. In order to do that, what we have to do is to start virtual dub. And I have done that. Now there's nothing there yet. Now, normally, of course, when you do a virtual dub session, you will have an input AVI and an output AVI. But what happens when you use AVI synth is rather than opening up the AVI file as input, you open up the AVI synth script. So if we go to File, Open Video File, it just happens that I default to the same script folder that we set up earlier. And if you remember that the name of this folder, or the name of this script, was SloMoProgressive.avs. So we want to choose that as the script file that we want to open. So we open that. And voila, we see that our frame-served render is showing in Virtual Dub. Now, there's a couple things I make mention to you here, but I'm frankly don't remember exactly what I did on this. One of the problems when I first started using Virtual Dub is I couldn't get this left and right panels to be fit on my screen. And you may have to go in here and go to View, Pane Layout, and I think it's both panes and auto size frames are the things that you need to select to get that to appear like that. But the next thing that you do is you go to Video and Compression and choose what codec that you want to render this to. Let's choose the Lagarith lossless codec here and click OK. Okay, now that we have done that, what we want to do is go to File, and we want to save as AVI. That's going to save the resultant slow motion script as an AVI file. Now I'm going to just navigate to let's see, I'm going to navigate to a place where I've got these captures here, and this happens to be Noah's Mile Run, and I'm going to save this SloMo progressive, the output, into that particular folder. It can be any one that you want, just so you remember where it is. So we click Save, and now this goes through the render. And notice it's going to be 17 minutes here. Some 22 minutes later, we are back now, and our virtual dub process is complete. So now we can close virtual dub, and we can go back to Sony Vegas. We'll do our frame serving, close out that render, and if you recall, we rendered this to this file SloMoProgressive.avi. So what we're just going to do is we're going to drag that guy. Oh, notice it's 5 gigabytes too. We're going to drag that guy back to our Vegas project here. And I think you can see that it is indeed about 8 times longer than the original. We'll play it. And you can't see on this because it's only a 15 frames per second frame rate on the tutorial, but it is a very smooth slow motion. So that's the full procedure for getting nice smooth slow-mo. If you have any questions, give me an email.